Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm reacting to your Friday Night SmackDown Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me over on X, because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. And if you are looking for our full review of this particular episode of Friday Night SmackDown, it's already up and available with footage over on patreon.com/SantiZab. Over there, we upload the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, PLE reviews, and a whole bunch of other videos and series that we can never post here because we use real footage over there, and here it would just get blocked due to copyright. So go check it out. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, that's enough. Let's see what you guys sent in. The way that Gunther told us to watch how he'd beat LA Knight tonight and what he said after was interesting. Gunther is absolutely the right call. He's legit, he's believable, and he's the perfect foe for John Cena. Their match at Saturday night's main event will be fantastic. Look, I do fall under the camp that believes that Gunther is the correct choice. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a bit too obvious of a choice to the point where it kind of ruined any excitement that the Last Time Is Now tournament had. But I believe that he's the perfect choice because he is the perfect prototypical made in a lab John Cena villain, and I would love for John Cena to go Super Cena one last time in his final match against that particular type of opponent. And I like what you're saying. He's legit, he's believable, and what he said after the match, where he said that he is going to make John Cena tap out, that he is going to make Mr. Never Give Up finally give up, gives this match this aura of doom, this feeling in the air that we might see the superhero John Cena finally give up on his last match. And that in its own is a drama that LA Knight can't generate, and no one else in this tournament could have generated either. I think you could have gone one of two ways with John Cena's final match: a big exciting party, or a big scary match that actually makes you think that John Cena might go out doing the one thing that he says he would never do, which is give up. And me as a wrestling fan, I'd rather pursue the side that has drama and story, albeit neither side really has a tremendous amount of story. But as you're going to see, this is not an unequivocal truth that Gunther is the right choice, because a lot of people, if you open Twitter or if you go into the comment section of this video, absolutely hate the idea of Gunther being John Cena's final opponent. This is a very divisive decision. But I want to hear everyone's thoughts, and we're going to hear a lot of the side of the Gunther sucks as a final John Cena opponent side of things in this video. I think people overlook this segment. I think that Ciampa was going to tell Johnny that he couldn't have time to be tag team champions once he wins the United States title. Could we be looking at the return of Johnny and Candice as babyfaces? Candice would cook in the US scene. Johnny versus Ciampa feud next? Yeah, there definitely were a lot of signals that might be telling us that Tommaso Ciampa might be going towards a singles run and might be separating this whole DIY thing that's going on. Personally, I'd rather see Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano stay together because we've seen them be individuals on the main roster. We've seen them be individuals in the main roster under Triple H and under Vince McMahon, and in neither of these scenarios were they able to flourish and really stand out as single stars, unfortunately. And there's nothing in the landscape of WWE today that tells me that any of that would change. I think that they would unfortunately flounder under WWE in Triple H's booking as single stars. I think they're better off being as a tag team under DIY. But just because I think that these three should stick together doesn't mean that we still can't put Candice LeRae into the Women's United States Championship scene, a championship scene that literally needs anybody, like just some like warm body in there to help prop up this division in some way, shape, or form. But I definitely noticed what you noticed. I definitely saw a little bit of maybe a hint towards the future of there being some sort of dissension within DIY. Then again, they did this for months within the Street Profits, and that never materialized into anything, so who the hell knows? Bayley versus Sol Ruka was a match that I didn't know I needed until now. We've seen Sol face off against a lot of big stars in the women's division, but that was all in tag team matches. This match is going to be her chance to shine as a single star, and Bayley is the perfect dance partner for her. This is such a giant vote of confidence for Sol Ruka, bigger than I think most people are giving it credit for. Not only is she being selected to be part of this show, which is already in itself a very big deal, but you look at what they're doing with the men. They are saying whoever is NXT champion gets to face Cody Rhodes and gets to be part of this show. When it comes to the women's NXT, they're not even looking at the women's NXT champion to face off against either of the women's main roster women's champions. Instead, they are choosing Sol Ruka to be the representative of the what's next to come in the future of women's wrestling. And that to me tells me that WWE WWE sees Sol Ruka as the next it thing of the main roster, which is why I'm saying this is a massive vote of confidence. I think that there were better, more exciting options than Bayley for Sol Ruka, but this is still a big deal. This is still a first ballot Hall of Famer Bayley, multi-time world champion Bayley, but also somebody that has a tremendous amount of history and legacy within NXT. So it does kind of make sense for somebody like a Bayley to be the stepping stone for the next big thing to come out of the women's division in NXT going into the main roster. I think that this match is going to be very exciting. I love that we're getting something brand new that we haven't seen before. I think that Bayley is going to make Sol Ruka look so much better than she is, even though I already think that Sol Ruka is already fantastic. I think that this is a win-win scenario for so many reasons, and I'm super pumped that we're getting this, and I'm glad that WWE finally in this episode of SmackDown decided to get things moving along with booking the John Cena retirement show. Like, I was really confused why they didn't have anybody from NXT on Monday Night Raw to get things going, but hey, at least better late than never. Gunther is overrated, and it should have been someone young to win. Gunther has already done everything that there is to do in the WWE, and he retired Goldberg. Really no need for him to win this tournament. They could have fought early in the retirement tour. Okay, so I only agree with your last statement here that they could have fought earlier in the retirement tour. That's true. I think that they absolutely could have made room for Gunther versus John Cena earlier on. Maybe I would have preferred John Cena versus Gunther at WrestlePalooza instead of Brock Lesnar, for example. And they could have absolutely ran it when John Cena was a heel and done a heel versus heel thing. That could have worked too. I think they could have easily ran this earlier on in the retirement tour, especially if WWE took Cena up on his offer to do over 200 dates instead of the 36. But I just have to push back on this notion that Gunther is overrated. I just don't see anything about this guy that's overrated. He is the guy that is consistently delivering the best matches of the year. He has been in numerous like match of the decade conversation type of matches in the late 2010s and in the 2020s. So this notion that he's overrated, I'm just throwing out. Like, I'm just not going to listen to it. And if that's the argument that you want to come in with, like in one ear and out the other. Now, if you want to make some deeper arguments like, hey, John Cena's final opponent should have been a young up and comer to put that person over and help get their WWE career on track. Sure, fair enough. I feel like there is an argument to be made there. However, they didn't do that with the other mega legends of the industry. They didn't do that with Shawn Michaels' retirement. That was The Undertaker. They didn't do that with Ric Flair's retirement match. That was Shawn Michaels. And they literally had Sting win and put nobody over on his way out in his final match. So why does all of a sudden John Cena's final match have to be about putting somebody else over? Why did we forget that this is about John Cena? And let's be honest, the last couple of young people to beat John Cena didn't get shit out of it. I'm looking at you, Austin Theory and Solo Sakoa. WWE has managed to make the women's tag team championships more important than either of their women's champions. It's actually kind of impressive that they managed to do this, isn't it? A set of tag titles that most people forgot even existed during various portions of their doldrums in the 2020s are now so important that they are the catalyst for the women's War Games match, and they're getting all of the attention, they're getting all of the main event segments, and somehow the two women's world champions are struggling to even get so much as like 10 minutes of TV time or any match time at all. I feel like WWE is kind of overcorrecting with the women's tag team championships, and this isn't their first time, right? WWE will go from these things meaning nothing, and then they'll be like, screw it, put Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They're gonna carry this thing, they're gonna get PLE matches, and the other women's titles, we're gonna forget about those for a while, and then the women's tag titles will stop to matter again, and then they'll overcorrect once again and start jamming main eventers in there and leave their women's singles titles, not just the world titles, but also the US championship, just to drown. It might be just a symptom of this is the end of the year and WWE knows that they have the women's Royal Rumbles and the women's Elimination Chambers to just like reignite the importance of both of these women's world title divisions. So it might just be a case of that. But both of these divisions, my God, they desperately need all of the main eventers that are in the women's tag team division at the moment. I genuinely feel like Gunther being the one to retire Cena is just as awful of a decision as Lesnar ending the streak. Neither Gunther nor Lesnar deserve or need this. It should have been Bray. It should have been LA Knight. You can disagree, but I'm dying on this hill. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't heard a single good argument as to why it needed to be LA Knight, aside from the fact that LA Knight is drowning in needed help. LA Knight certainly would have been an interesting option, but again, I just believe that Gunther provides significant more drama and a sense of dread going into this match that we might see Cena lose and tap out, something that LA Knight just simply does not provide in this environment at all. The argument of LA Knight needs the help, that LA Knight needs the rub, this isn't about getting help or getting a rub. This is about creating the best available matchup for John Cena, and I just don't think that that's LA Knight. Would this have helped LA Knight tremendously? Yes, I absolutely, unequivocally, this would have helped LA Knight tremendously, but I just don't think that this match is about helping somebody. I think it's about giving Cena his best final opponent possible, and I think it's Gunther. Call me delusional, but considering that Gunther retired Goldberg and is set to retire John Cena, if WWE can play their cards right, he could be the next, quote, legend killer like a Randy Orton. I think that you might be onto something. You've already mentioned Goldberg, that Gunther retired, now he gets John Cena, but then there's also other guys that are pushing 50 or are already north of 50 that are on their way out as well. I'm looking at AJ Styles, I'm looking at Rey Mysterio, and guys like Sheamus. It might not necessarily be the legend killer moniker, but it's certainly something similar. We might be seeing Gunther being the guy that resets the last generation, Gunther as the guy that ends the previous generation and takes those guys out back and sends them to the retirement home, which absolutely makes Gunther this big, evil, bad guy, which I think is the end goal here, to make Gunther an unstoppable, monstrous heel for the remaining baby faces of this current generation to be able to have to feud with for years to come. Let's face it, right now, WWE is kind of missing a heel like a Gunther that could play this monstrous role at a main event caliber level. I can't think of anybody that could play the role right now like Gunther can, and I think WWE recognizes this, and they're putting all their chips on Gunther and developing him into being this mountain level of a heel, which again, for better or for worse, because a lot of people do not like this decision. Hot take, Gunther versus Cena will be miles better than LA Knight versus Cena would have been. As soon as Gunther returned to his original theme, you knew he was winning the whole thing. Yeah, this kind of goes with what we were saying earlier on in this video, that this was a very telegraphed decision, very obvious, and it kind of ruined the excitement that you could have generated and the buzz and the who's gonna win this type of conversations from the tournament. It completely sapped it out. But I also agree. I think that LA Knight versus John Cena is far less appetizing than what Gunther versus Cena are likely gonna be able to pull off. There wasn't a single bad Gunther match in this tournament run, and I think that that was by design. One of the things that I said in the lead up to this tournament was that I felt like WWE was going to give Gunther lengthy, good matches to remind you why Gunther is the ring general and to help you fall in love with the idea that John Cena versus Gunther is actually going to be a decent match. I have no doubt in my mind that in terms of in-ring match quality, that Gunther versus John Cena is just going to be miles better than what John Cena versus LA Knight could put together. I'm hoping that they run this back, and when they do, Melo becomes the new United States champion. Dude, what a match, and what a bummer that it ended the way that it did. This was the first time that many main roster fans, and by that I mean people that only watch Raw, SmackDown, and PLEs, got to witness Carmelo Hayes versus Ilya Dragunov. I'm telling you, these guys had just unbelievably good sequence of matches in their NXT run for the NXT title, and if this is just a taste of what these guys are going to be delivering on the main roster, then I want these guys to be fighting for years to come. I do think that the best available person to dethrone Ilya Dragunov is Carmelo Hayes. Based on his story, based on his trajectory, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a taste of something to come, maybe even a WrestleMania match between these two where Carmelo Hayes finally gets the win. Terror Twins reuniting is such an amazing moment, and I'm so glad that they get to do another mixed tag match together. Yeah, I guess they're doing anything and everything in their power to make sure that Rhea Ripley is busy and doesn't go after the women's world title. She's busy with the women's tag titles, and now she's busy doing a mixed tag program. She's basically doing what they did with Becky Lynch, where they had Becky Lynch do anything and everything aside from challenge Rhea Ripley for the women's world title until it got time to WrestleMania. And since that's the writing on the wall that I'm seeing, I'm gonna make the prediction that it is going to be Rhea Ripley that challenges for the women's world championship at WrestleMania, which I don't think is a particular hot take considering how popular she is, and she does tend to get these types of matches at WrestleMania. But yeah, I'm just not particularly excited for this mixed tag match, if I'm being honest with you. The original conception of the Terror Twins when they went up against Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio, I didn't find that exciting at all whatsoever, and I'm unfortunately concerned that the reunion of these two together is just being done to just feed Aleister Black and Zelina Vega to them, because I can't see Aleister and Zelina beating these two of the most protected superstars on the main roster. And honestly, I'm just done with Aleister Black versus Damian Priest. series. I don't know how long they've been feuding, but it feels like it's been like 6 months at this point. We need to frickin' move on from this already. These guys should be doing other things, and just like we've told the story. Look, what else is there to tell between Damian and Aleister Black? There just is nothing left. It just feels like they're just squeezing something that just isn't there. LA Knight is constantly on a broken hype train that constantly derails right before it reaches its destination, and trips keeps resetting it without fixing anything. Next station stop, destination, depression. I do feel bad for LA Knight fans. I feel like they're starting to get there with Finn Balor fans in terms of just fans that just constantly believe that it'll finally be the day for their guy, only for the rug to get pulled from under them. I'm sorry to say, LA Knight fans, but I don't think LA Knight was even meant to be in this final. I think that LA Knight's loss was going to come in earlier in the tournament had Sheamus not gotten injured. I'm pretty confident that this final was always destined to be Sheamus versus Gunther. So maybe you should just be looking at things in a positive way. Like, hey, look, we made it this far, way farther than we thought our guy was going to make it to. Because, you know, as an LA Knight fan, I'm sure you knew deep down inside, as much as you want to deny it, you knew your guy was not winning this. But there is something to be said about the whole resetting the LA Knight hype train and it never really going anywhere. I think this isn't the greatest example because I don't think he was meant to be in the final. There is a fairly good recent example, which is the hype train that they generated between him and Seth Rollins, him beating Seth Rollins at Saturday night's main event, the feud with the Vision, and it all culminated with a big War Games match that LA Knight wasn't in. So it is an unfortunate reoccurring thing with LA Knight where they take him along the journey only to just say, nah. Is it just me, or did all of the big names run to the tag division and now we're stuck with Jay feuding with Chelsea and the whole United States title division? It's funny that you say feuding with the entire United States title division because there's basically no division at all, and she's feuding with a division that barely even exists. There is just nothing for Jade Cargill to do. She's already squashed B-Fab, and what the next thing that I'm supposed to get excited for is for her to squash Michin and for her to squash Chelsea Green. There's just nothing to latch onto. Like I said earlier in the video, I think that WWE is just sort of in a standstill with the women's world champions, and they're just going to allow the Royal Rumble and elimination to generate hype for those matches. Because right now, in terms of feud storylines, there's just dog water available for Jade Cargill. Because like you said, all of the best available options are busy feuding with something else for the women's tag titles, which I do believe makes the women's world champions look kind of weak. Like, really, none of you want to challenge for this? There's nobody challenging for these titles, and y'all prefer the women's tag titles? I do think it kind of reduces the prestige of these titles when all of the big names rather fight for something else. The point of the tournament should have been to have someone beat Cena and lead them to getting a big push in 2026, something that Gunther doesn't need. He's a top star who's going to be constantly in the world title picture. Someone like Knight or Melo could have benefited greatly instead. Listen, I don't disagree that LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes would have greatly benefited from being John Cena's final opponent. I think that's like the most obvious statement of the century. What I have to push back on is you saying that the point of the tournament should have been for somebody to beat Cena to give them a big push in 2026 when we didn't do that, like I've already said, with some of the other legends in the industry that had retirement matches. So why are we all of a sudden married to this idea that John Cena's retirement should have been about creating a new star? I still think that John Cena's retirement should be about one person, John Cena. And like I said before, we've seen time after time after time these push of the young stars beating the aging veteran on their way out just simply not work. It happened, like I said, with Austin Theory, with Solo Sakoa. If you want a retirement example, not that long ago, Baron Corbin retiring the legendary Kurt Angle. Where the hell is Baron Corbin? Like, released from the company. So this notion that just beating the big guy on the way out, that it's all of a sudden mega superstardom, is just fundamentally flawed. It doesn't always work. Gunther doesn't need the rub from John Cena like LA Knight does. Also, I feel like people don't want to see Gunther retire another Hall of Famer, to be honest. This sucks. And I actually think that you're pointing out the fundamental problem with LA Knight having won this and going up against John Cena, because this match shouldn't be about giving somebody a rub. You're talking about getting the rub from Cena's retirement. If you need a rub to be in this match in the first place, that's a problem. I don't feel like we need to be putting a guy that needs a rub. I think we need a guy that could be a definitive headliner and give John Cena the best possible send-off that we can, not somebody that needs the rub. The what chance ruined this promo. It was probably one of Solo's best promos to date, and the crowd just ruined it with the worst chant of all time. I will say the crowd tried to ruin it, and I don't think that they successfully ruined it because Solo Sikoa did such a great job at plowing through the annoying ass what chance and getting to the point. And oh my God, the points that he made were fantastic. The reference to Bray Wyatt and telling the Wyatt Six that he's going to take everything that Wyatt left for them, that they don't deserve to carry the Wyatt legacy, was a crazy line, and just such a believable delivery from Solo Sikoa made all of his points land, even if the crowd was being annoying as hell with the what chant. So I have to give giant props to Solo Sikoa for getting his message across, even if this crowd was trying to ruin the damn thing. Jade's heel character has been consistent. I understand wanting her to go up against real competition right now, but it's not about that. The focus is on her character, which he has been doing a good job at, destroying girls, then explaining why, giving the audience transparency. I think it's good. I don't disagree that that's what they're doing. I disagree that this is a good execution of what they're doing. I agree. I think they're focusing more on the Jade Cargill character, telling the story that she is, as she called herself, the bad bitch, and she's going to annihilate everybody. But imagine LeBron James says that I'm going to school everyone out in the court, and then he goes and dunks on a bunch of 5-year-olds. It just doesn't land as well if he were to go and dunk on other NBA players. And I feel like that's what Jade Cargill's doing, that she's telling the story that she's this badass, but doing it against people that don't really help the notion of her being said badass that she claims to be. Now, I'm not saying that they need to immediately do all of the heavy hitters for her to be able to tell the story that she's a badass. I think we can get there organically, but I'm sorry, the BFABs and Meechins of the world aren't doing a great job of telling the story that Jade Cargill is this badass. I just don't think it's landing the way that it should. The United States Championship ecosystem is so good, and it's great to see that they're not just relying on open challenges, but creating a feud between Ilya and Ciampa, which could help elevate the mid-card and the tag team division. Look, I fully agree. I think it is best to actually create storylines, narratives, feuds, even if we are in a world where the United States Championship has these open challenges on a regular basis. You can rely on the hype and the excitement and the shock and the awe of whoever answers the open challenge. But ultimately, if you really want people invested in the division as a whole, if you want to see the division grow and flourish, we need storylines. So I actually think that WWE is kind of doing the best of both worlds, developing auxiliary characters like DIY, Tommaso Ciampa, what they're doing with the Fraxium guys. Of course, we have the Carmelo Hayes stuff, the Tomatanga stuff, all while still being able to carry on the open challenge and giving us that excitement week over week. I think they are doing a wonderful job of mixing the two together. How many times are we gonna run this back until something actually happens? Yeah, it's like Tomatanga went to the school of Randy Orton of how to stare at something and or someone and do absolutely nothing about it. I think we are gonna be getting this pretty soon though, because when I look at what they're doing with MFT versus the Wyatt Six, there's one more guy that MFT has versus what the Wyatt Six has, and that one extra guy could end up being Tomatanga, who they remove from the feud in faction versus faction and put into a US championship match against Ilya Dragunov. I have such a bad feeling that they're gonna make John Cena tap. The way that Gunther legit pulled a move that we ain't seen before and told Cena to pay attention, and that's how he's gonna beat him? God, I hope I'm wrong. That's right there what I'm talking about. The drama that an LA Knight or literally anybody else in this tournament wouldn't have been able to offer. This dread, this ever looming sense of doom that you're about to witness, not just John Cena retire, but to see everything that he stands for fall flat in front of your very eyes in his last match. That is a narrative that LA Knight just simply cannot tell. Buckle up, Teddy. Listen, with all the stuff that happened with Gunther and LA Knight, very few people wrote in about this whole segment and everything going on between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. I love this segment. I thought this was hilarious. I love the intense promo of Cody Rhodes demanding that the management reinstate Drew McIntyre for another match. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not going to get invested because I just know that Drew McIntyre is just going to lose this, and we're just going to continue this cycle of Drew McIntyre being in the main event, getting tossed down to the mid card, only to finally get back to the main event and sell us all on this idea of Drew McIntyre becoming world champion, only to get toppled down right back again. Hey, it's actually not that far off with what they're doing with LA Knight, just on a more main event scale. I know this is not related to SmackDown, but with Netflix buying Warner Brothers and Warner Brothers owning HBO Max, does this mean that AEW and WWE are under the umbrella? I guess, yeah, that's exactly what it means. I think it'll be interesting once this sale goes through, which won't be for quite a while, right? Like these giant $83 billion level sales, they just don't get signed overnight. This has to go through all kinds of checks and balances with governments around the world. So we aren't going to see this purchase go through for the better part of like a year. That being said, when it does go through, I think the the answer is, yeah, I think this would mean that WWE programming, some of it is on Netflix, internationally, all of it is on Netflix, and AEW will be sharing a home, which I do think does create some very interesting scenarios, especially when WWE and AEW both have PLEs on at the same time, which we saw with All Out and WrestlePalooza, and we see all the time with an NXT PLE and an AEW PLE going head to head all the time. Like, that's a really common thing. We're still pretty far out to see, you know, what this relationship is going to look like, but I'd be lying if I wasn't at the very least morbidly curious as to how Netflix is going to handle the relationship between these two rivals. Getting a tease of either Oba versus Cody or Ricky versus Cody shows that either one is ready for the next step. I personally think that Oba already has done enough in NXT, so I feel that Oba should win, as it would be a big test for Cody, as Raw and SmackDown needs new faces and new stars badly right now. You see, this is actually a catch-22, because if Oba is ready to go to the main roster, then he shouldn't win the NXT title. And if he doesn't win the NXT title, then he doesn't get Cody to showcase why he's ready to go to the main roster. And you see the problem here? Funnily enough, the one who loses this match between Oba and Ricky Saints is the one that will get likely called up to the main roster within the next couple of weeks. And whoever wins, even though they get the match with Cody Rhodes, will probably be stuck down in NXT for probably until at least NXT Stand and Deliver season. So careful what you wish for, punk. If you want Oba, then I actually think you want Oba to lose against Ricky Saints and not get the match against Cody Rhodes, because I feel like that likely means that Oba is the one around the corner from getting called up. Either way, I think both matchups are going to be absolutely awesome, savory, and I cannot wait to see them because I got my tickets for this show. I got tickets! All right, folks, thank you so very much for watching this episode of Hot Takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.